go. And it's going to come all the way around just like that. And we're going to do the same over here. Come down by the hand, come down here and meet with the coat right here. They made a lot of weird shows too about hobos. I think there was a show made one time, I never did see it, it was called Hobo with a Shotgun. And it was kind of one of these cheap Bloody Maid type things. It was about a hobo who, you know, had had enough and was killing people. So one of those cheap made movies, you know, that they would, a lot of those big stars back then. I think it was, I think Rutger Hauer or something like that was in it. And he was a very popular movie star back in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that. But their careers began to fall and filter. And a lot of times they ended up in these cheaper movies. They weren't really happy about it, but when your, you know, celebrity thing wanes, well, and it did for him, as it does in most actors. It does that in most actors' lives, and you know, you can't be living on the mountain all your life, folks. You just can't, no matter how you want it. One day you're not up on the mountain anymore. Especially actors and stuff like that, because the public is so wishy-washy, as we say. I mean, you know, you can be a star one day and be a has-been the next day when you're dealing with the public, because they are, I mean, they're you know, whatever. You see that with those with those talent shows and all that stuff they have on TV. I don't watch any of that stuff, but you know, they win the talent show, and everybody's, you know, oh, this person's going to be a great star, and no, it doesn't happen a lot of times. Sometimes it does. Very far and few between. There's more that doesn't pan out. All right, now we've cut sort of a coat in here for him, because most of them are wearing coats and stuff. Gonna kind of just hit that a little bit. All right. Now the shoes are too big, so they're going to have to come down. Let's go ahead and cut our pants legs right here so that we can kind of get a general idea of We had some bad rains this morning. We got like 8 inches or something. My street was starting to flood a little bit, and I was going, oh brother, here we go. I knew it wouldn't be as bad a storm as Harvey was, because 64 inches of rain is a record for any tropical storm dumped. So, all right, so here we go. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to switch over to my smaller blade to work on my face. I always do that a lot of times. When I get around the face, I don't like to work with a big blade. I like to work with a smaller blade. Okay, let me see where it's at. Okay, here we go. This is a 1-inch blade. Now, it's just, with me, it's just it's not the knife I wanted. Which is the one I want? Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. The one with a little bit longer handle. Makes me see. I got a little bit longer handle. It feels much better in my hand. You pick out a knife. That's why I've got to where I started making my own. I bought the blades and making my own knives. OCC has the blades, and they're good blades. And because I make the handles to fit me and to fit how good I like my stuff. All right, we're gonna come. All right, let's come here and let's kind of just draw a little nose right there. Let's cut in. There we go. And let's cut on both sides. And then we just take a little sliver off right there, sliver off right there. And we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're not going to have to do eyes because the hat is over the eyes. It gives the hobo a sort of a look. There we go. It's not done, but I mean, it's looking better. Okay, sorry, I'm getting, I have a lower back problem, and I also have been working on my shed. My shed has T111 siding on it, and the bottom part of the T111 siding had rotted out, you know, at the ground level. So I bought some more T111, and instead of changing a whole new sheet, I had a little Dremel Sawzall, and I just cut about 2 foot up, and changed just that portion there, in which case also I was able to get about 4 pieces out of a 1 sheet of T111 to do it. So that helped a whole lot, because that stuff's so expensive, like $50-something a sheet, or it's I think $50 a sheet for the 7/16 or 5/8, excuse me, T111. And so if I had to change the whole siding on it, because it's about a 12 by 16 building, I just had like $1,500 just in lumber. So I said, no, I'm just gonna go ahead and change just the bottom piece, and it's worked out good. I changed the bottom piece, and then I caulked it from the outside, and then I put a piece of molding over it, and it looks good. But I've got to change the doors too. The doors are getting to where they're rotting. It's old, it is, but you know, and make it look presentable. It's a shed, folks. It's not the inside of my house. I'm not, you know, I mean, I want my shed to look nice, but I'm not, you know, it's not like I'm gonna live in it. So, okay. I draw a little line down here on this side for the ears, and I cut that down, and then I come back and I remove that wood in there so that it would give me time, it would give me space for the ears, and on this side do the same thing. It will give me space for the ears, and it will let me get the face cut down some. Okay. Ooh. See, that hand's way too big, so that hand is going to have to come down. The reason it's like that is because it's going to have a little stick type thing, and it's going to be, he's going to be carrying just a little pack. It's not not all of them had that, but that was the sort of the persona of what a hobo looked like. And most of them had some kind of a pack of some kind that they had to keep their belongings, what little belongings they had. If they weren't stolen, hobos, they robbed one another a lot. So it was a dangerous thing. It was not a life of luxury because it was very dangerous. Hobos, they robbed one another, they stole from one another, they took from one another, they killed one another. They were desperate men, and when you get desperate men, that's what you have. Desperate women too, but I mean, you know, when you had people that were desperate and didn't have anything, they would steal each other's food. They would they just do what they would have to do to survive. But I'm sure pretty much like the homeless people do now. I mean, do they steal from one another? I'm sure they do. I'm sure that they do steal from one another. They do take one another's. Now I'm going to come over here and just, it's going to be where my ear's going to be. Let's draw a line down there. Do they do that? Sure they do. People want to survive, and in doing so, they'll steal, they'll do whatever it takes to survive. Most of the time back then, hobos were men. The hobo didn't take his family with him running around the country most of the time. Now in the Dust Bowl, the farmers did take their whole family and put them in a truck and went elsewhere, but during that time hobos were basically men, and they were trying to find work and left their their family at home to fend for themselves and try to get, a job and send money back and everything like that. So the majority of them were men, and they were the breadwinners of the home, and they went forth to try to see the smaller blade helps so much in these areas like this, and they would travel to try to find work. Just that simple. So it just was a very sad time. Depression was a very, very sad time, people, because of course once it hit, well, even though the rich people lost a lot, well, that all trickled down to the poor people as well, and they didn't have anything, and then they really had nothing. So these men traveled to try to find work, and it was a terrible ordeal. Like I said, a lot of them were killed by other men who would rob them and steal them, if they had anything at all. And so, interesting read. Interesting. History is such a interesting phenomena. It really is. History is. I love history. I love the Civil War. I love reading about the Civil War. I love doing those things. And I know a lot of people, they don't like the Civil War. They don't like what happened. They want to erase history, and no. I mean, you can erase it if you want to, but it's still there. You can't erase what happened. You can try to forget it, I guess. But I honor it. I honor history. Even the cruelty of the history was, I don't honor cruelty, but I'm saying even cruelty of the history was there, and it was a part of it. And I know a lot of people will not agree with me on that. We need to get rid of history. No, I do not believe that, because I believe it was a part that would be like me saying, well, I don't want to remember that my father was a prisoner of war in World War II. I want to, but he was. And so rather than forgetting about it, I celebrate the fact that to me he was a hero and did the best he could. He hated war. He did. Because it was a terrible plight and a terrible thing. But he was brave enough to go and do what had to be done. So, all right, let's go back here and kind of come down with this back here. Of course, we're going to have to come over here and bring that down like that. I am particularly susceptible to the Ken Burns documentaries. I think Ken Burns has done just an absolute marvelous job of reliving our history and showing us the things and helping us to learn from it. And that's the way I look at history. I look at history as, well, let's learn from it. Let's not wipe it out, but let's learn from it. Our past. If we don't learn from our past, I mean, I'm talking about personally. If we have a bad past or we do things that, let's learn from it. Let's learn from our past. Let's not No, you can't wipe out history no more than you can wipe out your own life. If you had a bad life, say you were a drug addict or whatever it was, and then you got clean and you've been clean and sober for 20 years, you can look back and go and be proud of yourself. See that, and that's the key about history, and the key about anything. You can use that to make yourself understand that you've come a long way, but you can't wipe that out. You can't go back and say, oh well, that didn't happen, because it did happen. I guess you could, but you'd be lying to yourself. So, and that's the whole thing about history. It's not, there's no use lying to ourselves. It happened. Even though it wasn't the perfect thing that happened, it did happen. But for some reason, people just, not all people, but people want to forget things. But there's an old saying, you know, if you those that refuse to you know, remember the past often repeat it. So there's truth in that. I know I cannot forget history because, number one, I'm a Christian, and the Word of God, my Bible, is history. And even though that you know, I can't wipe the Bible out because I don't want to believe that. I mean, I guess I can, but I honor the fact that my Father in heaven died for me. So I'm just different, totally different. I think there's a lot of people that are just like me. I just think that today we've gotten, anytime, like I said, you know, I don't, our past is our past. We can't change it a lot of times, but we can make things better. So, okay. Bring this down a little bit. This is too. All right. All right. All right. Okay, let's come up here. Let's go ahead and make a pretty deep little cut in here. Oops. Make a little cut in there.